Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Careers in Aviation, brought to you by Adorn Before Flight. I'm your host, Bernard Green.
Code line 28 center on board 3177. With this 279 crossing triple to senior level 757 or 28 center clear to land wind at 310 and 13. Code line 28 center on board 3279.
Careers in Aviation is a video series dedicated to introducing today's youth to tomorrow's employment opportunities in aviation. In the first part of our series, we have continued to introduce you to various aviation professionals, and we still have a few more to go. But today, we are back at the threshold of a runway. Why is that? Have you ever wondered why a runway is specifically as long as it is? Or why an airport might decide to make it longer? Or perhaps even why the route from the runway to the terminal building seems to be long at some airports and rather short at others. In episode 4, we met Johnny Jackson, an airport civil engineer. Airport civil engineers, as we found out, are essentially responsible for creating the drawings used to construct projects like this runway. The question is, how do the civil engineers know how long to design the runway in the first place? The answer is an airport planner. The documents that airport planners produce take into account several factors, such as how many people are expected to use this airport and what type of aircraft is expected to use this runway the most. And that's why today we're going to meet Chris Johnson, an airport planner who happens to work for a private aviation consulting firm. So if you're ready, let's go meet an airport planner. All right, Chris Johnson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Bernard. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. Good to see you. So Chris, before we get started here, I just wanted to let you know that I got a bunch of people here with me. They're all mostly younger people, and they trying to learn all about airport planners. And I know you can't see them, next to me and everything, staying on the side of this runway here, but they're all here watching and listening. They're eager to meet you. So I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time.
That's fantastic. I'm eager to meet them too.
Great. That's great. That's really great too. So thanks for agreeing to do this meeting with us here today and meet these fine folks here who are eager to learn about who you are and what you do, and and especially on behalf of Adorn Before Flight, Careers in Aviation, who's bringing this to these fine folks and making this all possible for this interview here. So without any further ado, Chris, could you tell us what you do in aviation exactly? We see you standing on that runway there, kind of just like ours, maybe on the opposite end, and we probably could have just, just walked to the middle and we'd be, standing next to each other. But
we definitely could have.
What do you do in aviation?
Yeah, okay, Bernard. So I'm an airport planner. What I do as an airport planner is I help airport sponsors with their long-term vision plans, specifically putting together master plans and airport layout plan documents that specifically show where airport deficiencies are located, what other needs are needed, and also where potential future developments can go. So a lot of times as a planner, I'm the first step in the process, and then after I identify certain locations where developments can go, then the engineers and architects come in and see if it's realistic or not.
Right. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
I guess, so you said your title, I guess, is an airport planner, or
Yes.
Okay. And then you work for, who do you work for? Can you explain that to these fine folks here?
Yeah. So right now I work for
what type of entity is it? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I work for a consulting firm. The consulting firm is Passero Associates. It's an architecture and engineering firm, but we have a a big presence also with our aviation sector. Um, Specifically, like I said, I do airport planning here, but we also do airport engineering as well as airport architecture. Um, our firm is just a little over 100 employees. It's based out of Rochester, New York. We have offices here in Florida, where I currently am in St. Augustine, as well as offices in Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, and Vermont, as well as the Hudson Valley region in New York.
Okay, okay, awesome. So you guys are pretty spread out. Sounds like mostly on a lot on the East Coast.
Definitely on the East Coast and Midwest, but we're always looking to grow. So,
Okay,
come talk to me in about 5 to 10 years, and we may start, expanding west.
okay. So that's also a hint for these guys that are listening too, I guess, maybe a little bit, a little bit.
It's definitely a hint, but also anything is possible. That's
Absolutely.
anything is possible in our industry.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Chris, what made you even want to get into aviation? Like how did you become interested in airport planning? And how did you find out about it?
Well, I always tell people it was a happy accident. I graduated in architecture 2009, and like a lot of my classmates at the time, we were all looking for jobs. We were like, we don't care where we get as long as we can, do design and do AutoCAD, do SketchUp, Illustrator, the whole nine. So I joined a firm in 2009 that specialized in architecture, some engineering and planning out of Metro Detroit. And as an intern, my whole focus was I just wanted to immerse myself in everything that this firm had to offer. So I met an airport planner who had an airspace drawing on his wall. And initially I looked at it and I said, wow, that's really cool. Are those like flight plans? Not knowing that those were airspace surfaces that help protect the airspace above the airport. So he explained to me what the drawing was, and I was even more intrigued. So from that point forward, I just, continued working closely with him, learning more and more. And um, a few years later, I started doing a lot of the same work he was doing as an airport planner, excuse me, and um, haven't looked back since.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. That's really interesting. So you started off, and it sounds like you were going to do architecture, like like traditional architecture,
Mhm.
and you ended up like kind of making a turn and doing planning work and not just any planning work, but airport planning work. That pretty much sum it up. Then I guess kind of at least how you got into it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good summary. Um, like a lot of college students, you want to do everything, and you have everybody has a lot of talents, and
True.
everybody
Yeah.
comes in saying they want to, be a businessman, they want to be an architect, they want to be a doctor, a lawyer. So I was one of those students. So I kind of dibble dabbled in a lot, and um, I told myself that I know for sure that I want to be in the design field,
Mm,
whether that's technical design with architecture and engineering, and then also urban design because I love cities. So digging deeper into urban planning, I said, I love transportation planning, especially. I love airports. I love high speed rail. So um, joining this firm, really was a godsend because they specialized in, airport planning, but they also did some municipal planning work and some municipal architecture and engineering work as well. So it just to me it just was a good fit, and then it was also a good way for me to transition into the planning realm, even though I started in architecture.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess it's interesting that you mentioned that your firm does a lot of different things because in reality, as you're explaining to us right now, airport planners tend to work with other disciplines like
Yeah.
architects
Yeah.
and civil engineers. We had a previous guest who was a civil engineer, and we were talking about how they designed the pavement for the runways there, like we're standing on here.
Mm.
But it's interesting that you mentioned that because you are sort of like the front the first person, I guess, to figure some of these things out. So could you go into a little bit more of that about how you do what you do? How does a how would an airport essentially go from an empty field behind you with like nothing but the grass maybe and those trees behind you, to all the pavement and taxiways and apron areas, and just be careful. Looks like there's an airplane on the taxiway back there too. So yeah. How does an airport come to fruition like that for you as this first person who is helping to make this all come about?
Bernard, that's a great question. Do you got 10 hours so I can answer it?
Okay,
No,
yeah,
I'm
sure.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, essentially, as you say, you start from a blank field and you want to build an airport. Um, you first have to start with the wind, understanding, your wind occurrences and your wind direction. So once you determine, what your wind direction is, that helps you lay down the orientation of your runways because aircraft always take off into the wind and they land into the wind. So wind is extremely important, So once you have that, then you need to start looking around the airfield at, potential obstructions, trees especially, poles, power poles, buildings, and making sure that you don't build in a location where um, those objects become hazards. Either, if we're talking buildings, you have buildings off the end of a runway, that becomes a hazard not only for the aircraft users and, passengers on the aircraft, but also that can become a danger for the people sitting in the buildings.
Sure.
So you want to take into account, like I said, first the wind, and then also what's around the airport. And then also you want to look at, you know, what's happening in the municipality, the city or the county. What is their long-term comprehensive plan say? Where do they plan to grow? Because you want to make sure that their growth does not infringe upon the existing airport property boundary, but then also where the airport may expand. So you want to try to pick a location where you will have a lot of room for growth. Um, ensure that your airport is safely operating. Um, and there's also different ways where you can also ensure this, such as setting up an overlay district to help control the land uses around the airport to always make sure that they're compatible with the airport.
Okay. So kind of
So there,
working
there
with,
there's much more than that, but I
sure,
think
sure.
that's a great place to start.
Sure. Yeah, the bigger picture for the primary uh, controlling factors, I guess, that are major in a sense for how the airport is shaped and where it's located. Okay, yeah, thanks for helping us to kind of understand that a little bit better. Um,
Yeah, no problem.
so how many different people do you work with, and in your role as an airport planner at a consultant company? You, yeah.
Um, in terms of here at Passero or
Yeah, or
clients,
just in general, is it, do you work with just like one or two people on a regular basis typically, or does it vary quite extensively on a regular basis?
okay, so it varies. It varies. I work with, architects, engineers, other planners, um, also people that specialize in, the business side of how airports operate. Um, when you think of a master plan, the master plan, first talks about, you know, well, first off, the master plan is a story and it tells a story of the airport. It basically tells the history of the airport. It tells, what the airport has in terms of runways, taxiways, and facilities. And then it starts to talk about where the airport needs additional facilities and how the airport growth can help satisfy those needs. So when we start talking about how the airport can grow, then I have to start talking more with the engineers, the civil engineers specifically, as we're talking about, where we can put a facility. Is that facility close to a wetland? Is that facility in a place where it's going to increase the surface waters on the site? So, what infrastructure is needed? Then when we get there, how should the building be partitioned? Specifically, let's say a T hangar. What size aircraft need to be in that hangar building? So these are all questions that um, I need to get answers to, and when I get to this point, I work with the architects, the engineers, and then finally, how is all this going to be funded? And that's the big one. You know,
Yeah.
how are we going to pay for all these airport improvements? And then what potential funding opportunities are there from your state, federal, or local government? And that's where I'll sit down with the business guys. So. Um, really the great thing about being a planner is not only do I wear many hats, but I get to interact with, different types of people in this industry.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what would a good day look like then for you? What would you say for a day that's just like an awesome day?
um, well, a good day for me would be actually, I'm gonna say a good week. A good week for me is being able to get through all the tasks that I have laid out.
Yeah.
Um, Specifically, working on, master plans, for instance. Um, the great thing about working on master plans is just about every airport in America is going to need a master plan at some time. So, usually I work on 2 to 3 at a time. So with that, you have these little tasks that are associated with each. So a fantastic week for me is when I'm able to complete all those tasks. Another side to my job is when issues arise. When you have an issue where, let's say, a safety area off the end of a runway is impacted by, an existing fence, and we want to do some rehab or some changes to the runway. Um, then, that's almost like a fire drill, as we call it, where this is an issue that we need to solve so we can, continue construction or get construction started.
Right.
So at that point, I would jump on that and I will solve that issue. Um, but like I said, this is it comes with the territory with being a planner,
Yeah.
which is great because my every week is always exciting. You know, every week is different, and there's never a dull moment. It's always fast paced, and that's really like what I love about my job because if I'm just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, I'm gonna get bored. So
Yeah. Yeah.
my job keeps me active.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Kind
good.
of a long answer for you, but
No, 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 no. That's a good thing. That's good. No, we appreciate that.
yeah,
Because it helps them to understand what it is that they could be getting into. As they try to become, another Chris Johnson. So
yeah.
that's just good information for them to know and to understand. I think. Would you? So I take it then in that case, there's nothing that you would really truly uh, consider changing. It's not like tomorrow you're gonna change your mind and become a zoologist or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm an airport planner. My planning title, like I said, I wear many hats. One of the hats I wear is project management and client management. So,
Awesome. Yeah.
when I get in front of the client, I take my planner hat off and put my consultant hat on, and it's all about making sure my client's needs are met, and also making sure I'm bringing my project in, on schedule and on budget, and that's the big thing,
Right.
being a consultant.
Right.
Um, so no, I don't see myself changing, anything about my job. The only thing I would say is maybe expanding on my job, because airports, uh, they live in a city environment, a municipality.
Right.
There's also a municipality planning side to what I do as well. Right now, it's mostly just adjacent to the airports, but I also went back to school for urban planning, so I would like to expand on that and start also potentially seeking municipality work as well.
Okay.
Municipal planning work, to be more specific.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. Because there's a marriage obviously between the airport
Oh,
and
most
the
definitely. Yeah.
municipality, and they're essentially, you know, they need each other to survive, and I guess it makes
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
that they have a well planned atmosphere to survive and depend on one another. So that makes sense. That makes sense, I guess. So if I was in a high school or middle school, or you know, one of these our guests here that are standing on the sidelines listening, wondering, what advice would you have for them if they wanted to become an airport planner in the future?
Well, I would say airport planner or anything, because I don't want to, you
Sure.
never want to put anybody in a box and say that they must grow up and be this.
Well,
But
just if they knew specifically that
they want to be
that
airport planner.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I got you. Um, well, I would say, like I say to my nephew, who, has once said he wanted to be an aerospace engineer. Anything is possible, and anything can be learned. So long as you are willing to put in the time and the work to do it. As for becoming an airport planner, there's so many different ways and avenues to this job. Really, you can go into urban planning, you can go into architecture, you can even go into engineering and, become an airport planner. So I would just say, if you're interested in airport planning, definitely get into the field or start looking into the architecture field and what it will take to become an architect, or what it will take to become an urban planner or an engineer. Um, and like I said, anything is possible. Um, just do just do your best to listen to those who are trying to teach you, and understand that anything can be learned. And that's the big thing. I always say that, anything can be learned.
Sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Chris, would you be willing to share with our guests if they have more specific questions and they'd like to contact?
Oh, most definitely. Well, most
Okay.
definitely.
Do you have any final thoughts or things that you'd like to share as we close out here?
Well, I already said, anything is possible, which I know is cliche. That is true. But I guess what I had to say is, don't be afraid to dream big. Always knock it out the park. Anything you do, just give it your all. You know, you know, be true to yourself and do yourself that favor of just pursuing what you want to pursue, and don't let nobody tell you what you can and can't do. You're your biggest fan. You're also your worst enemy. So be your
Right.
biggest fan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very well
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Very well said. With that, Chris, on behalf of Adorn Before Flight, Careers in Aviation, we really would like to thank you for all the information that you've shared and being a resource for our guests here who are interested and even if they just learn a little bit more and maybe want to consider airport planning, but even if whether they do or don't become airport planners. So we just like to thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I'm always glad to speak with anybody. And Bernard, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today about this as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, we really appreciate it. So yeah. All right. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you, Bernard. Take care now.
You too. Hey, we've got to get off this runway. But before we do, thank you for allowing us to introduce you to an airport planner. We hope you learned a lot. You have a question for Chris that I did not ask? Guess what? You can contact our guests. To find the link to their contact information, visit our website or view the information in the description below. See you next time.